Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about layer 2 blockchains, what they actually are and how they connect to layer 1 blockchains. Once you get this, the whole picture of money flow and scaling will start to make sense, and you see why people are paying attention to certain projects. Right, now you're here and hopefully you haven't tuned out already. If you're still here, don't just go tuned out after 10 seconds because you might actually learn something. Even if you're not interested in the blockchain technology yourself, you're just here to make money, this still will benefit you because you can understand, if you understand the crypto ecosystem as a whole, you can understand where the money is flowing. And it is like they say, if you want to be rich, follow wherever the money goes, you go. So just stick around and pay attention, it might benefit you. Right, quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. Anything I do say in these videos is for entertainment and educational purposes only. None of it is financial advice. Crypto is risky and you could lose all your money, so be careful out there. So speaking of money flow now, I just made a little chart for you. So up on the screen you should see a chart. First of all, the money's going to flow into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the strongest asset. It's been around for many bull runs, many bear markets, and it's still here, still survived. It's a well-established project. So all the big money starts off in Bitcoin. Then when Bitcoin starts peaking, it's getting towards its peak, it'll start flowing down to Ethereum. Ethereum is the second largest crypto, the second largest market cap. So when Ethereum starts peaking, it'll flow down to the large cap projects, maybe Solana, Ondo, Pyth, Aether, and then it's going to flow down to mid caps, small and micro caps. So yeah, that's something to be mindful of. Use this chart, look at it whenever you need to. This could be a little friend in crypto, and this is going to show you where the money is going to be flowing and when. At the end of the run, you're going to get a smaller micro cap, so it might be the tiny caps, 10 mil, 5 mil, 2 mil. It could be like small. Usually at the end of the cycle, you get all the gaming projects going wild. But first off, you can get Bitcoin, Ethereum, large caps, mid caps, and then micro caps. So that's something to be mindful of, okay? So before we get into layer 2s, let me just explain to you what a layer 1 blockchain is. I should have done this in an earlier video, but while we're here, let me just give you a quick introduction into what a layer 1 blockchain is. So a layer 1 is a base chain with cryptos such as Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, Bitcoin, Sui, Aptos. And you can picture it as the motorway of crypto. Everyone uses it, apps, businesses, traders, everyday people. And just like a motorway, when it gets too busy, you end up with traffic jams. Now think about that for a second. What happens when a motorway clogs up? Delays, frustration, and it ends up being a knock-on effect. So blockchains are the same. People start bidding against each other to get their transaction included. So fees rise because the ones willing to pay more go through first. That's why layer 1s are secure but limited. They can only handle so much traffic before it slows down and gets expensive. So how does this benefit a layer 1 like Ethereum? Simple, by adding express lanes alongside the motorway, traffic moves off the main road and runs faster and cheaper, and then it merges back in. A layer 2 handles transactions efficiently and then settles them back to Ethereum. So users keep the benefits of speed and low cost without losing the security of the base chain. Think about it, people use them every day because sending something directly on Ethereum might cost $10 and take a while, whereas on a layer 2 it can cost pennies and it can confirm it in seconds. That's why the usage on layer 2s is exploding. So how do some chains get around this? Solana speeds things up using something called proof of history, which is like giving every transaction a global timestamp before it even gets processed. Instead of waiting around to agree on the order, the chain already has a shared clock, so transactions slot into place much quicker. On top of that, Solana's design allows for parallel processing, which means lots of transactions can be checked at the same time instead of one by one. It's like having dozens of tills open all at the same time instead of having one long line. Sui takes a slightly different route. It uses parallel execution too, but with its own move programming language. If two transactions don't touch the same piece of data, for example, you send tokens to one mate and someone else sends tokens to another, they can be processed instantly in parallel without waiting for a block. Only overlapping transactions need the full consensus process. That's why Sui can handle hundreds of thousands of transactions per second with finality in milliseconds. So what does that mean in practice? It means faster apps, smoother user experience, and a chain that can grow without choking on its own traffic. Now, here's a question for you. If Ethereum needs scaling, what about Bitcoin? Bitcoin also needs layer 2s because the base chain is slow and limited on purpose. It only processes a handful of transactions per second. That design is intentional because Bitcoin prioritizes security and decentralization above all else. Every transaction is checked and confirmed by thousands of independent nodes worldwide, which makes it rock solid. But it also means the chain can't handle high traffic quickly. So Bitcoin is ultra secure, but it's also slow. To actually use it for everyday payments, you need extra lanes built on top. That's why the Lightning Network was created, letting people send BTC instantly and cheaply. It doesn't stop there. Projects like Stacks, Merlin Chain and BitLayer are being developed to bring smart contracts and programmability to Bitcoin. Just imagine, what happens if those catch on? Demand for Bitcoin itself could surge because all the activity still ties back to the base chain. So with Solana and Sui, they already have speed built in. So do they even need layer 2s? Not as much, but developers are still experimenting with things like app chains and zk based scaling. For them, it's less about fixing speed and more about adding flexibility or specialist features. The big takeaway is this: Ethereum needs layer 2s to cope, Bitcoin uses them to expand utility, while Solana and Sui play with them as extras. Different reasons, same trend, layers are being built on top of layers. So why does this even matter? Now here's where it gets interesting. When activity grows on the layer 2, it usually helps the layer 1 it's built on as well, because all of those transactions eventually settle back there. So if Ethereum does well, that strength often spills over into layer 2s like zkSync or Arbitrum, and when those layer 2s grow, Ethereum gets stronger as well. Where do you think the money will flow as adoption ramps up? Back into both layers. And here's the exciting part: that extra demand could push up the price of not just the layer 2 token, but the layer 1 it's built on top of. It's only a matter of time before we see this dynamic play out. So now you've got a basic understanding of layer 2s, what they are. Let's talk about the different types of layer 2s, because not all layer 2s are the same. They don't work in the same way. So, first up is optimistic rollups. Optimistic rollups bundle transactions together under the assumption they're correct unless fraud is proven. It's optimistic by design, which saves time, but means final confirmation takes longer in case of that dispute. The analogy is like a shop. It lets you walk out with your shopping unless they trust you've paid. And only if someone complains do they check the receipt. Examples of optimistic rollups are Arbitrum or Optimism. Next up are zk rollups. zk rollups take the opposite approach. They bundle transactions and then generate a cryptographic proof that shows the whole batch is valid. No need to recheck every item, you just trust the proof. It's like showing a barcode receipt at the door that proves the whole basket was paid for. That's why zk rollups are so efficient. And examples of zk rollups are zkSync and Starknet. So next up, state channels. State channels let two people open a private line, do as many quick transactions as they like, and then post the final balance to the main chain. It's like running a bar tab up with your mate and then settling the final bill at the end. An example of this would be the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And lastly, sidechains. Sidechains are sometimes mentioned, even though they're not true layer 2s, they're like smaller roads that run next to the motorway with their own rules. They can help with traffic, but they don't inherit the same level of security from the base chain. An example of one of these is Polygon. It's the most well-known one. So, when you think about scaling blockchains, picture layer 1s as the motorways and the layer 2s as the express lanes alongside them. Solana and Sui built speed into the motorways from day one, but Ethereum solves it with extra lanes on top. Which is why layer 2s have exploded there. Bitcoin relies on layer 2s to make it usable for fast payments and smart contracts. And even Solana and Sui are starting to experiment with their own extensions, even though they don't need as much for the speed. So where do you think adoption will go as more users flood in? More traffic, more demand, more value flowing into the big layer 1s and the strongest layer 2s. The future of crypto is about easing traffic, cutting costs and keeping strong security. And that's why I'm watching projects like zkSync, because these are the express lanes that could carry the next big wave of adoption. So if you're still here, I hope you took something away from that video. I hope you learned a little bit about the layer 2s, a little bit about layer 1s. Even though you might not be interested in the technology, it's going to give you a good understanding of where the money is going to flow. So if you understand the old crypto system, the way it works, how, you know, the different functions of different cryptos, how they all tie together, you're going to understand where the money's going to be going, and then that's only going to benefit you if prices start going up. But yeah, I know it's a lot to take in. Your brain's probably scrambled now. It's probably like mashed potato. But yeah, thanks for watching. Anyway, it does mean a lot. Could you please like and subscribe? If you're going to watch it, will you just please give it a click? And yeah, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.